Hi, I'm Rebecca St. George, and I would like to encourage you to start a critique group. WSO critique groups are such an important part of my journey as an artist, and I really think they're important for any artist to grow and improve. And there's the added benefit of you gain these incredible friendships with the people in your critique groups. So I'd like to tell you how the Central Oregon Critique Group got started. It was started by a woman who didn't have a critique group and wanted one. She went through the roster and she found people that were in her area, and she simply wrote them an email inviting them to a critique meeting at a certain time and location, and that's how the group started. The group's now gone through, I think we're on our third generation, and right now our group is run by a team. One person, Kathy Huntington, does all the organizational things. Our group meets in a public library, and she makes the reservations for our room. We're only allowed to make the reservations 2 months in advance, so every 2 months she goes in and she makes our reservations. She also sends out the email reminders to tell people when the meeting will be. We always meet on the same day, the second Tuesday of every month at the same time. However, because our library is being remodeled, Kathy's had to be creative and find a few other places sometimes to meet. So we have met in the college library twice, and we've met in the downtown library twice. But now I think we're back to our home library, the East Bend Library. It doesn't take much to start a critique group. The supplies that we use are, we have a portable easel, just a small metal one. We have a metal magnetic board and some magnets to put the art on, and we have a few cardboard L's that we can use to make suggested crops for the pictures, and we have a notebook and a pen. So my job as part of the team is I am the facilitator of the critique group. So when people come into the room, I have them sign into the notebook, which is labeled with the month and the year, so we can keep track of who's been there. And then we simply, if it's a new person, we introduce ourselves and welcome them. And if it's an old person, we go, oh, hi, how have things been going? And then when the time comes to start the meeting, whoever signed up first is the first person that is critiqued. As the facilitator, my job is extremely easy. Our group is pretty informal. We have the rule that everybody gets one piece critiqued, and then if we still have time, we can go around a second time. And some people will have brought in 2 pieces so they can have their second piece critiqued. And if we still have time, we can go around a third time. Our group meets for an hour and a half, and it's usually 8 people, sometimes 12 people. We have probably 40 people on our email list, because we do have people that come like 2 times or 3 times a year, and we have people that come every single time. So we don't always know who's going to be there. As facilitator, if I'm not available because life happens, and sometimes on the second Tuesday of the month I have something else, I merely ask one of the other core members of the group if one of them would take it, and so far we've always found somebody willing to take it, because it is a fairly easy job, and because people find it so rewarding to be able to be part of a critique group. We have the makeup of our group is all levels. We have beginners, we have people that are art teachers, we have people that have won best of show and people's choice, all in the same group. We have some people that are not watercolorists, we have someone that's a pastelist and somebody that does oil painting, because we've made the decision to open this up to other media. But we are a watercolor society group, and it is one of the benefits of being in the Watercolor Society. We met even through COVID because I have a really big patio, so we were able to put chairs out and space them apart and meet in the outdoors. So our group is pretty dedicated. What else should I tell you? Some people come to the group and they just want to watch, and so when we sign up and I call out people's names, they can say they want to just pass this time because maybe they didn't do a painting this month that they wanted to bring in, or maybe sometimes we have people that are new to critique groups and they really just want to watch for the first couple times, and then they get where they decide this isn't threatening at all. I think I can do this, and they do it too. I really hope that you will start your own critique group. It is such a rewarding thing, and it's a very easy thing to do. If you need help, I'm sure there's other critique group leaders that could answer any questions that you have, but it's one of the big benefits of being in the Watercolor Society, and it's such an important part of your own personal growth. So I encourage you to join a critique group, and if there isn't one in your area, to start one so that there is one in your area, because we could always use more critique groups. As you watch this film, you'll see that there are some critique groups that meet in people's homes. There's critique groups that meet in public places. There's small groups, there's big groups. There's groups that have been together for 15 years. There's all different kinds. So you can customize it and start the kind of group that you would really like to have. But it's a very important part of my growth as an artist, and I wouldn't be without one. Good luck.
Hi, my name is Judy Nye, and I'm a member of the Roseburg Gang Critique Group. We formed our group in 2018. There are 12 of us. We meet once a month for 2 hours. Each member can bring up to 2 paintings. We each have one painting critiqued, and if we still have time, we can have a second one critiqued. We have a host for each meeting. We take turns doing that. The host provides light snacks, keeps the meeting moving along and in order. And I'm going to look at my notes because I don't want to leave out anything that could be important. We split up duties because after 2 or 3 years, we realized that it's too much for one person to try to keep the group together. So we have a WSO liaison / secretary. She basically reminds us when the next meeting is and who the host is. She is the contact person with WSO. We have a treasurer. She collects the annual dues and pays the room rent. Our rent is $25. Therefore, our dues is $25 per year. We have a maximum of 12. I probably already said that. We have a person that puts together the workshops and applies for the grant money. And a really important thing, when I first got started with the critique group, it was because I took a breakout session at the WSO convention, and it was called How to Start a Critique Group. It was very helpful. All the people that were in this roundtable discussion had a lot of good input. After that, I was emailed something called the Rules of Engagement, and I believe a lot of critique groups have used this to get started, and you simply switch it up, to meet your needs, where you're meeting, when you're meeting, that sort of thing. So we had that to go by. And also I was sent an article on the basics of how to critique. That also is very helpful. So everybody is required to make themselves familiar with the rules of engagement so we can stick by it. Otherwise, the meeting could easily turn into a hen party. I am going to email the rules of engagement and the article on how to properly critique to our education director, and that way anyone that wants to can have access to that.
Hello, my name is Catherine Abdener, and when I joined WSO about 3 years ago, I had been painting in watercolor for 10 years. I had taken some excellent workshops and classes, and I was on the lookout for opportunities to continue to learn and improve my art. I found WSO to be welcoming and supportive, and I was encouraged to begin a critique group in my area. There were none in my Southern Oregon community. I was given encouragement, and it has really taken off. The WSO website has instructions for starting a critique group, and it was extremely helpful. I also called a critique group leader in Roseburg and got some valuable insight from her. Taking the WSO roster and handbook, I located the names and emails of artists in my area, and once identified, I sent a general inquiry to gauge interest. Many responded, and some even in the Medford area, which is about 25 miles from us, and we've had amazing support. Our local art museum director has allowed us to meet in that beautiful gallery space for free every month. Nonprofit spaces are good places for you to consider starting a group if you're interested. Places like libraries, community centers are often open to hosting. Some groups have their meetings in member homes. Our group is fairly large as far as the email base goes. We have 25 members, but only 8 to 12 or 14 people come each month, and we have plenty of room in the space that we use. We meet for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and each person brings a painting, and we go around the room and give some positive critique and suggestions, and it's just been an incredibly valuable learning experience for me. And I encourage you to chat with me or one of us in the video and find out more about how you can start a group in your area. I know you'll be encouraged by it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Buck. I've been a member of the Watercolor Society since I believe 1994, and I decided I needed to get into a critique group at that time, and I went to the first convention, and I met some people, and they lived sort of near me, and I asked if they wanted to be in a critique group, and we started one. At first it was in my house, and then we started going to rotating between houses, and eventually some people came in, some people went out, but eventually we started staying at one person's studio for all the critiques, and then morphed again, different people. We went to a retirement assisted living home who let us stay there for free once a month. And then when COVID happened, everything shut down, and I got the professional Zoom so that I could host, and we hosted for 2 or 3 years. And then we could have gone back to the assisted living place, but the people in the group voted to stay on Zoom for various reasons. Some people really like seeing it in person, but on Zoom you see it better, and there's no driving involved, and our attendance was better. So that critique group is still on Zoom. I'm in another critique group where they wanted to always meet at Village Gallery during the daytime, and that one, during COVID, we went to Zoom, but then when we went back to in person, we went to somebody's studio, and when they moved away, we went back to Village Gallery. So you can go anywhere. Mostly they aren't charging, although Village Gallery does charge us $3 every time per person. Why do a critique? If you're painting and you have done the best you can and you think it's pretty good and you show it to your family, they will probably say, oh, that's wonderful. That's nice to hear, but not helpful. What you really want is, that's wonderful, but you could make it better by fixing this area. And if you have, especially painters, but even anyone, all say there's a problem with that lower right, the foot or the whatever, there's probably a problem there. And it's lovely to hear other painters say, I know how, I mean, I like it, but I do think you should fix that area, and here's a suggestion. You don't want to hear how to fix it completely. You want to hear where the problem area is and suggestions. So a good critique group will have people that you respect that will say one or two nice things, because you really do want to hear that, but then will tell you where the problem areas are and their ideas on what you might do there. And your paintings will improve immensely if you're open to it. Now, some people just cannot stand being critiqued. They shouldn't be in a critique group. But if you're open to it, you will find that your paintings get better and better. And eventually you're going to say, I'm done with this painting, but I have to have a critique before I put it out for sale or put it into the show or submit it to the show. It's just a very helpful thing to do, and I highly recommend it. So the roster has the cities. You can look up who's in your area. You can look up and call them. You can try and start your own. You can try and get into an established critique group. There's all sorts of different possibilities, but I am a firm believer in critique groups, and I think you will enjoy yourself. Okay.
Well, I love the critique group because hearing other artists comment on different perspectives of what they see in your painting. It's all positive. I love constructive criticism also. And I think we get both. We get real positive feedback, but we also get some really good constructive criticism, because when you go around 7 or 8 people, everybody has a little different viewpoint. It's really fun, and I find it really inspiring. I want to go home and paint after I do this. So that's the really fun part about it.
Excellent. One of the things I love about WSO is being able to be part of a critique group. It's been an important part of my development, and I think all artists can benefit from being in a critique group. So how do you start one? Sometimes you get to join an existing group if they have openings, but often what's happened with me is I've started a group out of a need of needing a group of people that understand my work, and I'm in several critique groups right now. And I recently started one for WSO members who happen to need a nighttime meeting. There's many of us who meet during the day, which is great if you're retired or you have time. But we started, interestingly enough, a conversation at a WSO convention. And I had been talking to several newish members who were still working full-time. And the only time they could meet was at night. And so we formed a nighttime critique group via Zoom, which is an important tool if you can't meet in person. Some of us are scattered out near Salem, Portland. So it wasn't really practical for us to all meet in one place. So the Zoom meetings have been great. They're about 2 hours long maximum. And we meet exactly the same day of the month, which is the third Monday night. That consistency is really important. You can put it on your calendar and set it up and kind of forget it. What's valuable about a critique group is that you're getting real input from artists who also paint, who understand your work. I think if the pandemic taught us anything, it's hard to paint in a vacuum. It's hard to paint all by yourself with no feedback. And your family is great, but they don't really know the struggles of trying to finish a painting. So I think that has been invaluable to me, and I recommend critique groups to anyone who asks. I think it's been a big part of my success, and I know when I talk to other artists, they feel the same way. There are many benefits of being in a critique group. For me personally, it's been that last look before the painting goes out the door. I've been painting for 30 years or so, but still, near the end of a painting, you get a little stuck and you're not sure what that last little thing is, but you know you need something. And so to be able to put the painting up in front of people, whether it's a meeting in person or whether you do it via Zoom, to get that input and to get someone else looking at the painting and saying, I just don't think that shape is working over there, or maybe you need to connect and have more value in your painting. Things like that have been so useful to me and have made the difference, I think, between getting into a show or not, maybe even winning a prize or not. I can't prove it, but I think it's true. When your critique group decides on a place to meet, you may have to pay a fee to that meeting place. I haven't had that experience. We've been able in the past to meet at other nonprofit art galleries, maybe in the evening after hours. But you could take up a small collection. I know we did that for one nonprofit that we met at. We just, $2 per person, and that kind of went into the coffer of that gallery, and so they appreciated that. But as such, since I have a Zoom Pro account, I don't charge people to be on that Zoom call. I think the best way to find a critique group that works for you is to start reaching out to other WSO members. Come to a convention, get in a conversation, and find out if someone like yourself, or even different from yourself, is looking for that connection, for that critique group. And I think if you start those conversations, you'll get a list of names, as I did, and start to form the beginning of a critique group. And not everyone has to paint the same way or in the same medium. You're working off of your experience looking at art, what you've learned from WSO jurors who come in and critique. I think that's where most of us learned our critique language, the words that we use to talk about paintings.
So let's recap. Perhaps now you've decided that you'd like to start a critique group in your area. Gather artist participants. Use your membership roster and handbook to identify people in your area who may be interested. Contact art organizations, galleries, art friends, and spread the word. Places that give art classes are a good place to start as well. Number 2 would be find a location to meet. Not-for-profit spaces are often free or accept small donations. Libraries are good spaces. Other spaces that may have a meeting room or conference room that you could use at a low cost. Member homes can be a good idea, as we've discussed, or using Zoom. Number 3 would be decide on a time, a day and a time. Our group meets every month, as do most of the groups that I've been in contact with, but you can decide on whatever schedule you'd like to have. And make sure it's something that people can put on their calendars so there's a regularity to it. Number 4 would be identify a critique group leader or facilitator. That person might send email reminders out before the group meets and be that person who communicates with the host facility. Number 5 would be define your critique group guidelines and the process for your group. How many paintings will each artist be permitted to share? Does there need to be a time limit per painting? If there are costs for the facility, how can they be shared equitably among the members? Share information with each participant on how to critique constructively. You'll need a portable easel and a sign-in sheet. If you have other questions or need further support getting started, don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me by finding my name in the member roster and handbook, or you can email the education director at education@watercolorsocietyofOregon.com. All the best.